Mom and a Man's Take Two. Welcome back to all my new and returning friends. I am so happy that you're here. My name is Christy and I am Mama and a Man's. I am coming to you from East Central Nebraska, and we are getting ready for a blizzard warning that starts in about 45 minutes. And so I feel like I sort of organized my stuff, but also I'm trying to get this podcast out and get it uploaded so that in the likely event that we lose power, also the internet would go out. So I want to try to make sure that it is in the world before that happens. We live in a church-owned home, which in the Presbyterian Church is called a manse, and I have 5 children, and so that's where my name comes from. And why we live where we do. I feel like I'm missing stuff. You can find me as Mama and a Man's on Ravelry Instagram, and that is also my Gmail account. And I think that it is time to get started. I want to get this out, and we have prepared the important things. We have extra blankies sitting around. We have cereal to eat in case of not cooking. My knitting light is charged. That's very important. We found all the flashlights too, because, yeah. Our house was built in the 1920s. A lot of the town is older, and there's really big trees. The blizzard warning is calling for high winds and blowing snow and wet, heavy snow. And so between those two things, like usually if we get either high winds or really heavy rains or snow, we lose power. Even when we've just had some kind of like freezing drizzle rain, we start to get power flickers. And I think it's just kind of the systems around here have not really been updated and aren't great. So we have a tendency to lose power pretty easily. So I'm kind of expecting that to happen. Also, we live 45 minutes from the edge of Omaha, and the blizzard warning is supposed to last until about 3 a.m. So I don't think that they will send workers out very quickly until it's safe for them. I would introduce you to my co-host. I feel like as a 35-year-old, I should not be combating both wrinkles and enormous zits. However, this has been my friend for the last week, and quite honestly has been causing pain. It's so big and awful. So I'm kind of sans makeuping the face more, trying to like not put anything else on there that would aggravate it. But I probably shouldn't call it attention to it, but I know that some of you are really mean and watch me on big screen TVs. That is not something that I recommend or appreciate. I prefer for you to watch me on your phone or a small computer screen, because then you can't see my pores or my scar, though it's kind of shiny today. Anyway, I suppose since I want to actually get this out in a decent amount of time, that I should get started. So I have a couple of finished objects. However, nothing has been blocked. I have been going a little bit crazy. I think that I kind of mentioned in the last podcast that the weather has really been getting to me. And we've had a very, very cold, like we've been -0 Fahrenheit. So, like usually we get about a week of that a year. And we've been having that off and on since Christmas. It has been insane. My friends in Lincoln have been getting lots of snow, but we have not. And we'll get like an inch here, an inch there. And we keep getting predicted that we're going to have these storms, and then they go around us. And it's just been... Snow rejuvenates me. Like when there's a nice snow that just blankets the world, it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel warm and cozy. Obviously, I have a house that I'm, have that privilege of being warm and cozy. But it's beauty in the nakedness of winter. And we haven't had that. And it's been a long winter. It's been a really cold winter. It's been after kind of a time of stress for our family. And so I don't know. I've not been diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, but I was kind of starting to think that maybe that's part of the problem. There's not been sunshine. It's just, ugh. So mentally, I haven't been like depressed, but I've known that there's something off. Like I'm going a little bit stir crazy. Excuse me. It's early in the morning. I don't normally podcast in the mornings because I am never prepared in the morning, but I decided today I had to try, and actually it's like 3 hours later than I was planning, so. So it became an overwhelming urge to do something, as far as like my knitting, and I was just not satisfied with anything, and I had to cast things on. So there are going to be some things that you have not seen before, like quite a bit, for less than 2 weeks. And actually they were all like last week too, I think. But anyway, I'm drinking out of my Knit Picks unicorn mug. I do love this mug. It's a good size, and plus it is a unicorn knitting a rainbow, and I love that. I have noticed that the inside, there's a little bit of a chip right here, which could be something banging on it, but also like the inside, it's starting to, I don't know if you'll be able to see this little line right here. It's like it's flaking. It's not really flaking, but it's like a weird crack. I don't know. So I don't know how long it's going to really last. So I think I've had it for probably a year or a year and a half or something like that. I am wearing my Make Your Own Luck shawl by Paper Daisy Creations. I did dye all of the yarn in this. And I am wearing my pavement sweater, which is by Vera Valimaki. And it is Madtosh for a wreath. I feel like I know what I'm talking about today. That's so crazy. Okay, let me set down my sustenance so I can start telling you all about some of the stuff. So something that you have seen before is the After the Rain brioche cowl that I've been working on, and this is going to go into the Rainbow Along. It is the first brioche project that I ever started. So last podcast you saw my Wet the Fade, and that was my third project. So this was the very first one where I learned how to brioche, and it is just a cowl. The white was not called for, and also she used a darker color, so it really toned it down, but I didn't want to do that. So I did do, the other thing was that she had really tiny minis for the pattern, and there was like 12 colors, and the yardage was, I think, this was a 5-color set, and that was more equal to what a 6-color set would be. And so I decided to add just a little bit of white so it didn't end up being too narrow. The color minis are Color Riot Neon Lights from Nicole Hugh Loco. And so I knitted this up. There's the inside. It is reversible if I want something a little bit less crazy, but truthfully, rainbows have all my heart eyes. Now, especially in this dreary winter. Yeah. So there's that. I haven't worn it yet. I need to trim I probably need to block it first, but I need to trim some of the ends a little bit better because Michael weaved them in for me because he is awesome. I did have a few mistakes, and truthfully, I'm not completely sure that I can just find them now that it's off the needles. Oh, there's one. Very early on, when I was learning how to fix my mistakes, I got them fixed so that there's not a white bar, but you can see that so that there's not like a pink or a white bar going across the other color. But you can kind of see that I didn't do it correctly. But by the end, I figured it out, and it was a very, very good learning piece. And brioche also has my heart. It is an amazing stitch. It's something new and different. I love it. As far as the colors go, I'm not super thrilled with them. Now that it's done and all together, I think that I like it more than when I started out. I love the pink. This orange was very yellowy, and it's very much more tonal than it looked in the skein. It doesn't bother me now because I feel like it kind of looks fiery, and that's good. I feel like I'm kind of fuzzy today. Am I fuzzy? I don't know. Then this green is very yellow. It looks more yellow than neon green to me. That's another thing that I wasn't super thrilled about. And it looks yellow-green, I think, now that it's all finished. This was supposed to be a purple, but really I think it's more of a pink. I mean, that looks pink to me. It's kind of like a neon lavender rather than being a neon purple with a lot of pink in it. So obviously it's purple compared to this, but I love me some neon. I love me some rainbows. I probably wouldn't buy this set again for anything because I didn't feel like it met my expectations. I do like tonals, but I felt like the tonalness lent itself to not the color it was supposed to be. Like, I feel like this orange is much more the light, like pastel-y orange yellow, rather than this darker stuff, which is what I thought the skein was going to be like, rather than that kind of being like the main color. If that makes any sense whatsoever, because I'm not sure it does. I am going to, no I'm not, because maybe, I'm not sure if I'm going to edit at all today, because I don't want to spend all that extra time trying to edit and save and then do it. We'll have to see. I don't think I'm probably going to edit, so I apologize. If I'm able to get it all in one take, then I'm not going to edit. So anyway, so that's After the Rain Cowl, and I don't believe that I said the author or the designer, but it is Joy McMillan. And really the pattern was fantastic. Very easy. And I did modify it a little bit by adding a little bit of one color brioche on both ends. I think I did 4 rows and then on both sides, and then changed it to 1 row of knit purl rib before binding off. So there's that. Then I had the overwhelming compulsion to cast on a sweater for my son's speech therapist, whose due date was like 2 days ago, and as far as I know, she hasn't had her baby. I've been stalking her on Facebook to like see if I can tell like when she has it, but as far as I know, she has not. And anyway, so I chose the newborn vertebrae because I think it's a really cute pattern that I've seen a lot of people make, and quick and little, and so that's what I went for. None of the people having babies in our community are finding out what the ginger is, and so that makes it kind of hard, which I believe that colors are for everyone. That is what we teach our kids. That's how we live our lives. Hey, Isaac, will you flip on the light? Will you turn on the light right there? Other one.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, that's a little bit better. Thank you, buddy. So colors are for everyone, and we don't feel that colors are like boys can't wear pink or girls can't wear blue or whatever. And in fact, I really don't like any kind of pastel colors, so I'm not into that kind of like baby blue, baby pink color anyway. I really like darker colors and jewel tones and things like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that when somebody doesn't know the gender of their baby that they feel the same way. Because like if I made a rainbow hat for a baby and it was a boy, I don't know that everybody would be like, yeah, we're going to put a rainbow hat on a boy. I don't know. Anyway, so I had a hard time figuring out what color to make. And eventually what I decided to go with was a tweed, and this yarn is Knit Pick Stroll Tweed in Flagstone Heather. And I was using this to put toes, heels, and cuffs into my one of my Knitting Expat socks. I think the Huggle socks, they are not finished yet, but I decided that this was the best color and went with, she kind of wears like the somber colors that I wear, like navies and grays and olive greens and things like that. And so I thought that this would be a really good color that she would really like, and it would go with everything. Because I also had a very beautiful like tealy blue that I think anybody would think was gender neutral, also in this tweed, but I was afraid that like a lot of baby clothes wouldn't maybe go with it, and so I did go with the gray and stole that. So I had two of these that I was using for the heels, toes, and cuffs. I took one, I took one and knit it, and then I took a little bit out of this. So actually I had meant to weigh this because Allison had asked me how much yarn it took, and I forgot. It is literally 51 grams. So I should, the only thing that I have left on my socks are the cuffs, so this should be plenty for that. The sweater weighs 51 grams, and I have 40 grams left, so that, yeah, that's way more than I need for the cuffs. This also has not been blocked, so it looks a little bit rough right now, but this is the little tiny baby vertebrae. I did not purposely make, wow, that does look really super rough. I should have blocked it. I will block these so that they are down much further. I think most of the modifications that I made were accidents. Actually no. It is a free pattern, so I'm not really giving anything away. It has you cast on 45 stitches. I did do 47, and so that I would have one more on each of the fronts, because it is a very open sweater like this, and I just wanted like one more spot. Also, so my increases weren't right next to it. I did slip the first stitch of every row to make it easier to pick up. Actually, no, that didn't tighten it up at all. That part is stretchier than the ribbing, really. I feel the ribbing pulling before I feel that. So I did do that, and then the other thing that I did differently was I had taken this up to bed and was like watching TV and stuff, and was just like knitting on the back of this, and asked my husband to bring up a counting rope. What are they really called? Like a tape measure thing. My kids kind of call them counting ropes, and I forget what the real names of things are because that's what we call them too. It was like almost an inch longer, I think, than it was intended to be, but I feel like that's fine. And we'll just wrap around the baby's butt a little bit. It'll be cute. I do think that I went a little bit longer on the sleeves as well because I read a lot of notes that they were too short. I did taper my sleeves, and I went down to 36. The sleeves in this don't have any tapering, so I did do that as well. So I guess I did modify it quite a bit, but the only thing that was not on purpose was I ended up knitting it longer than intended. Yeah. So the designer of the newborn vertebrae is Kelly Van Niekerk. It's a good pattern. She also has a pattern that has up to size like for 2 years old. that is a paid for pattern. The newborn is included in that pattern. And it includes, I think, 3 yarn weights for the pattern as well. I chose not to buy it because honestly, Violet is coming up on 2 years soon, and so I wasn't sure that I would really use it that much. There's not many people that I love enough to make a sweater for their baby. That sounds mean, but it's true. And like my best friend is having a baby in June, but it's being born in June, and I know that her baby that was born in July a few years ago didn't wear anything warm. So I don't think I would make that for her, so I didn't buy the other pattern. But this is a good recommendation. It's kind of one of those things that I feel like every single knitter either has made it or probably should if you have a baby in your life. I did not get to knit on it one day, hardly at all. But other than that, it took 3 days. Like, I cast it on in the evening of one day. The next day, I didn't really get to knit, like, very, very little on the sleeve. And then the next day, I did all the ribbing. And it was done in the afternoon. So, really, it was probably about a day. If you, like, had a whole day, like, during a blizzard, to knit it up. That's baby vertebrae. And I am pretty happy with that. Now I just need to make her a little hat and a blanket to go with that. Okay. So, I'm going to take a quick drink because I'm already getting dry. I feel like when I am not in front of a camera that I am completely able to drink without making noises, but anytime I'm podcasting, I make like little like slurpy noises, and it's see, I can't even take a sip without making a noise. So in no particular order, well, I think I will go in a particular order. I'm going to go with all the things that I recklessly cast on this week. Or since the last podcast. So last year at York, the Mid-Plains Fiber Fair, which is coming up again the last weekend in April, I believe it's the 27th and the 28th, I will be being a booth babe there for Lofty Loops. And it's in York, Nebraska. And it is not going to be VKL New York. Like, don't get me wrong. It is not that. But if you are in this area, it is like, it's a nice way to see other dyers and spinners and things that are kind of in this Midwest area. I really enjoyed last year. This will be the 3rd year. I didn't go the first year because I can't, did I know about it then? I can't remember if I knew about it the first year, but last year I did go, and it was an enjoyable little day. There was a llama show, like they had my kids. Actually, it was on the podcast last May. If you want to kind of see some of the footage that I took, but they like had our kids like show other people's llamas just as kind of a get used to it or something. Anyway, one of the things that I got while I was there was this little kit from Country Dream Acres, and she's actually like within 10 miles of me, and it included 2 skeins of Country Dream Acres hand spun 100% Angora rabbit yarn and a cowl pattern. So the cowl pattern was written out on cardstock. There's Country Dream Acres. Here's actually like her information. Well, it looks like she has an email, but maybe not a website. I don't think that that's focused. I feel like stuff is really blurry today. I don't know why. So I went ahead and splurged on this. This is my first time knitting with hand spun. It's my first time using Angora. This particular yarn is a light gray, and it is from a bunny named Madeline. So she puts the names of the bunnies on the back, and then she hand spins this yarn. So I can show you in the skein where it looks a little bit prettier, because my 1-year-old has gotten a hold of the cake, but they're just like little kind of mini skeins, but there's 2 of them. It was kind of a splurge. It's hand spun and Angora, but I was really interested to try it, and it was my birthday weekend, and I kind of like that was a lot of what was going on with going to York. So, and it came in the little organza bag all together with the pattern and stuff. So I did start this, and I haven't made it very far, but this is the, it's going to be extremely warm. It is intended to roll right there, so just so you know that I'm like not a bad knitter. It's very warm, and it's probably the softest thing I have ever touched. I think that when people say something is as soft as a baby's butt, what they should probably be saying is it's as soft as hand-spun Angora rabbit yarn. So this is just a little something to work on and have. Why are you even there? I don't have any cowls in my like wardrobe, and so I've finished that rainbow cowl. I've done this one, and I have that pink one that I've been wanting to kind of get off the needles, and I think it will be a fun thing. It's so soft. It's so soft, and it's warm because I can feel my hands kind of being warm as I knit it. It is not necessarily something I can super knit without looking at it at all. Because it's so hairy, it has so much of a halo that it kind of, so every once in a while I'll kind of catch those, and it's hand spun, so there are like thick and thin spots a little bit. And so like not all the stitches are the same size, if that makes sense. I mean, like obviously on the needle they're the same size, but sometimes the yarn is bigger or smaller, and so I'm often looking back down to kind of make sure that I'm catching the right thing. But I'm probably halfway through one of the skeins. It's supposed to be about 11 inches, I think. So it'll just be a nice little cowl to kind of sit and keep me really warm, I think. So that was my first thing, and I don't even know why in particular I was like, I need to just knit this right now. But that's kind of, after I finished my What the Fade, that's kind of what happened. I'm just like, I need to do all the things. I have to cast on everything. So then, it's not my next cast on, but I want to save that one for a moment. Another thing that I cast on was I decided I absolutely needed a pair of rainbow socks. And so I did have this skein of the Dyeing Arts, which is a dyer out of Omaha. It's 75%, it's on her Fabulous base, 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. And it was a very, very intense rainbow, like bright rainbow. And so I was extremely excited to knit on that. I had looked at the skein a few times. It was $30. So it was a little bit more than I'm used to paying for yarn. And I didn't really need it, you know, like that whole thing. So I had seen it a few times in Imagine Knit before I finally decided, yep, I'm getting it. I'm buying it. And then it had sat in my stash for a bit. But for the other cast on that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes, I had kind of pulled out several different skeins, and that was one of them, and I decided this one needs to be socks. And I need them now. And I want them to be knee-high or boot length. Like I was going to knit 2 at a time and knit them as far up as they will go. So I wound them up, and the way that I wind them into 2 balls to do 2 at a time is I wind it into 1 ball, then I put my yarn bowl on the floor below the yarn winder, the ball winder, and I, from the outside, wind the other ball, and then that way I can pick it up and put it. I've found that because I always knit from the center pool, that was how I would wind it as well, and that was usually putting too much twist, and so my yarn would be like wrapping around itself and things like that. And so now that I've started going to the outside, it's not doing that anymore. Tiger, leave the yarn alone. So that is how sorry, I have to go. Nope. Okay, she ran. Good. There's a ball that has fallen, and the cat was playing with it. So anyway, winding it from the outside has seemed to really help. So that means that the inside of both of my balls end up being opposite ends of the original skein. And the thing is that, Minerva, the 2 ends of the skein are very, very different. So I cast on 64 stitches, which is kind of my norm with US 1 2.25 millimeter, and I have been doing my toe up toes a certain way, and I think that I'm probably going to like just make a little PDF of how I do that soon, because I don't do make ones. My make ones I use a yarn over and do it in a certain way so that I'm not pulling extra yarn out and making it too tight. But anyway, so here is what my socks look like so far. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself for not opening the skein and checking it. I feel like I paid way too much for this skein for it to be like this. The outside of the skein was absolutely and completely showing this and not any of this. And so I feel like the dyer was misleading. I think that as I knit, because this is the inside of the skein, the original skein, and this is the outside, that as I knit, I will be getting closer to the middle. And so by the time I get to the top of my socks, my logical thinking is that I will be really close to the same point in the skein, and so therefore, hopefully that part will match more. And that is the part that is more likely to stick out of a pair of boots or whatever when I'm wearing a pair of knee highs. So I am not somebody who has to have my socks match. However, these don't even look like I don't have to have my stripes line up perfectly and stuff like that, but this is not the same at all. It's still a sparkly neon rainbow. I am disappointed. I am not upset enough about it to like contact either the yarn store, which she wouldn't have known because I doubt that she opens every skein of yarn that comes into her store. And I'm not going to contact the dyer either. I will not ever buy from the dyer again because I trusted that what was being shown on the skein was representative of what the entire yarn looked like. It was not, and so that particular dyer has lost my trust. I'm not trying to be like a negative Nelly. I usually don't say mean things, and I don't mean it to be mean, but I don't think that this isn't even one end being lighter. It's completely different. So, it's not something I will do again. I think I'm still going to love these socks. I think that they're going to be even crazier than they were going to be before because they won't match. But I do feel like this one will probably fade into more speckles and a darker look. And I think this one will fade into less speckles and a lighter look until they kind of match because they're both like from the same area of the skein. That's what I'm hoping. We shall see. But I do need more socks. I feel like I pretty much prefer to only wear my knitted socks now. And so with our family size, our laundry does not always get through super quick. And so I'm often finding that I don't have socks available clean all the time when I need them. And I do wear them 1 or 2 times before I wash them, unless they get like something sticky or something. But anyway, so that's in my knitted nest bag that my husband brought me back when he went on vacation in Tahoe without me.
Work trip.
Whatever. Okay, so that was one of the things that I compulsively cast on. Keep knitting while I drink some more coffee. Okay. So, the next cast on was the same day that I cast on those socks. Like, that's how compulsive it was. Like, I had to do it, and I cast on these 2 things within, like, hours of each other. I purposely went looking for a new to me designer, and I was also looking for new to me yarn, but the pattern, I was looking for a pattern. I wanted to make something different, something that I had not already been looking at forever, specifically from somebody that's one of my new people in my circle on Instagram. And so I've been watching a few podcasts, and I'm going to mention podcasts later too, but I found Sophia, and she is the Drunk Knitter on YouTube. And so I've been watching her podcast, and it's the Drunk Knitter, and I can't remember if it was the exact same time or if it was a little bit after, but she is going to be having a mystery knit along that is Game of Thrones themed. And so I'm considering participating in that. And I just went to see like if she had like the pre-sale up for it, because I know that it's probably not coming out until like April or something, but she didn't. And so I was like looking through other designs that she had, and I found this shawl called Joy. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Like, well, it has little leaves on it. That's cute. And so I clicked on it. And I went to look at it. And as I was reading the description, I decided that I had to knit it, and I had to knit it immediately. So this shawl, she started designing it the day after she found out that she had lost her baby. And that spoke to me, and 50% of the proceeds from the pattern sales go to share pregnancy and infant loss support. And that really, I was like, okay, yep, this is my pattern. I am someone who has 5 children, and so many people don't think of me as having had any issues having children, because I have a lot. But I have had more miscarriages than I have had children. So I have been pregnant 11 times, and 6 of those ended in babies that were not born here. So that immediately, like, I feel that. I know that pain. I also know, like, when she was talking about she started designing it the day after she found out, I know that urge to have something creative, something to memorialize that child, especially when it's a miscarriage. A lot of times it's early. There's not really anything, like, physical thing that you can do with the child, if that makes any sense. And so, like, there's kind of, you know, sometimes you didn't know that you were even pregnant, or other people didn't know, and then, like, to be able to share your loss, you have to, like, be like, oh, by the way, I was pregnant, but now I'm not. Like, I get that outlet. And so I was very much on board with this, and I bought it and pulled out about 7 different yarns trying to decide what I wanted to make it with. And I think you can see in this picture right here that there's kind of a leaf motif at the bottom, and so I was like, that would be very beautiful in, like, an olive green, and I don't have an olive green shawl yet. And so that's kind of the way I was leaning, and then I went, nope. This is all about pregnancy loss and sharing that with other people and supporting people. I'm like, nope, it needs to be a rainbow, because if you are not aware, babies who are born after miscarriages, stillbirths, or infant loss are called rainbow babies. And for me, that means that 3 of my 5 children are rainbow babies. I mean, technically, all of them are after miscarriages, but I think it's supposed to be more like immediately preceding them. So, before Emma, I had 4 and didn't think I'd ever be able to have a child. And then before Lizzie, I had one that I didn't know I was pregnant until it happened. Because they kind of said we wouldn't be able to have any more kids without having a lot of fertility treatments. And then between Lizzie and Isaac, I lost one at 16 weeks, and that one was devastating. So that makes Lizzie, Isaac, and Emma all rainbow babies. So that's what I went with. And my husband wound my yarn, which makes him a really awesome husband. But then he lost the tag, and he swears he didn't, but he did. So, unfortunately, I can't tell you very much information about the yarn that I chose, but I did choose this really, I don't know, it's kind of a jewelry rainbow. It's not really neon. I do know that this is more yarn that I did. Mike, will you ask them to be a little bit quieter, please?
Isaac, you need to quiet down, buddy.
I did buy this at York, and it is Hanson hand dyed, and she is on Etsy, but she did not have, I went to her Etsy shop to see if I could at least find the name. It's a fingering weight, and it's a rainbow, but I don't remember the name at all. It wasn't in my Ravelry stash, so I don't have that information. If I do find the tag, I will let you know. She doesn't have any currently, but it is a very beautiful color. And so I have done all of the, like, shawly parts. It's upside down, obviously, because that's an easier way to hold it when it's on needles. And I am ready to do the border. So this looks much more red on the camera. Sometimes what shows up on my phone while I'm recording isn't really what it looks like once it's out in the world. I'm actually holding this backwards. There's a slip stitch on the spines. That's really pretty. I love slip stitch and really variegated yarns like this, but because I think they really show up beautifully. They do really on solids too, so, I mean, slip stitches. This is really like much more of a berry pink color than the red that it looks like on my phone, but I don't know how that will look for you guys when you're watching it. I'm ready to do the border on that, and I'm very excited to have this. I'm excited to try a different pattern. I did have a few issues with stitch counts. But also, like, I thought that was... Rainbows make me happy, and also it's kind of a memorial piece, and so I was super happy to do this pattern, and I'm looking forward to having it finished and being able to wear it to continue to bring some joy to this dreary winter. Again, that's Sophia Talley, and she's the Drunk Knitter. And there are 2 sizes as well. So you can make a little bit bigger. I am making the bigger version. I don't know how well you can see in this black and white photo, but this is one shawl. It's the bigger one, and then the shawlette is up here. And my kind of issue with having the stitch counts wrong, all of the increases are along the spine, so there's like one over here and on the spines and stuff, and so like I had no idea if I had left a bunch off or if I had done a bunch that I wasn't supposed to. So I just basically knit it until I got to the right spot. So hopefully this is enough for the border. I think it will be. I have my handy dandy scale here so I can just look and see how much is left. It's like 24 grams, so that's like a fourth. I would think that would be enough, but yeah, so I will have that next time, hopefully blocked, because I think it is a very beautiful pattern, and it is a beautiful thing to put out into the world, to share that part of you, and also to know that there are so many people out there that have those experiences, and you immediately feel a kinship with someone who shares that. So yeah, I had not touched my Decemberist, which I had shown you before as a little tiny shawl, until last night, but with the blizzard warning coming, I really was feeling like, ooh, let's grab that because that'd be fun. The blizzard vibes kind of have me wanting to like knit all of the big things. So I had talked about before that I have 3 skeins of this, and it's not the right size. The yarn shop I had bought it from told me it was super bulky. It is not, which is what the pattern by Melanie Byrne calls for. And here's the shawl. So I've been kind of going back and forth, like, what am I going to do? It is being made out of Plymouth Baby Alpaca Grand Tweed in a gray colorway. So last night I went ahead and I knit it per pattern to where you would start the edging. So I have it, and it's nearly impossible to like see anything because it's on needles. It's about, I think I measured it last night, and it's about 10 inches right now at the center spine. So the whole thing is supposed to be, okay, where did I see that? Supposed to be about 30 inches, and so I feel like looking at that picture I showed you a couple minutes ago, there it is, that the inside part here is about half, and so like I feel like it should be close to 15. Obviously it's probably going to grow when I block it. So I perused the Ravelry notes again. Also, the thing is I don't want to stop now and use only one skein on the border, because that's going to annoy me. I want to use all the yarn, but I want it to be as big as possible, because the yarn weight is smaller. It's going to be smaller. I was perusing on Ravelry. I did find some stuff that people went up so that they had a whole other leaf pattern on both sides. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a lifeline and see if I would have enough, because one person said they did that and they got into the last skein for like the last purl row. I don't want to have a whole nother skein left. Like, I want to use it up and make it bigger if I can. Other people were using like 6. So this is not a yarn that I've seen in any of the local yarn shops. Some of them have the Alpaca Baby Grand, but not the tweed. So yeah, so I'm going to experiment, but I have it this far. I think I'm going to go ahead and go up, do a few more increases. This yarn sheds like crazy, and the stuff that it's shedding is kind of itchy. So like last night I had on leggings and it was just covered, and like some of it was poking me through my leggings. So I think a lot of other people said that they had shedding problems and then it kind of like got better after washing. So I'm hoping that that's true, and I probably will go ahead and soak block this instead of just steaming it, which is what I had originally kind of planned on doing. I'm like, that's gonna be like a pain to soak block just because it's so big. Big yarn and sopping and stuff, but I am gonna do that to try to get as much size out of it as I can, and also to hopefully get rid of as much shedding as possible. But it is a beautiful, very soft yarn. Like, it doesn't feel itchy at all, like when you're touching it, but like the stuff that was coming off of it was like itching me and poking me through my clothes. So that's weird to me. I don't understand why the yarn would feel so soft, and it was doing that. But I think this is the perfect blizzard thing to wear. Who knows if we'll get another one, but obviously it's not going to be done before noon today, because it's probably almost noon now. It is afternoon. It is like 5 after. So that is the Decemberist by Melanie Berg, and that was another kind of whip that I've had a little bit recently. But I haven't touched it since, like, in a podcast or two, so. So all that crazy casting on, so that's 4 cast-ons, since the last podcast, which was just under 2 weeks ago. And a lot of times I'm like, no, I need to be working on all these other things. My yarn baby Ashley, she has finished the shawl that we started together, the Bendy Arrow by Charlotte Bory. She finished that all on her own. Like, I had planned to knit it to a certain point and then stop so that she could catch up with me, and then like for the new technique I could, FaceTime her or whatever it took to help her get through that spot. And she got up to the short rows, and then she did those, and she asked me a few questions, but she had like looked up on YouTube and things like that to figure it out, and then she just took off and blocked it a couple days ago. So my yarn baby is all grown up, and but like all of that stuff that's kind of just like sitting in the wings, I'm like, I really need to finish that. But in fact, when I was having this like compulsion to cast on everything, I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's fine. I will eventually make it. I want it really bad. I think that it will make me feel better. So between that and last Sunday, Saturday night, we got a snow thing. So we had a snow day from church on Sunday. And then Wednesday, we had another snow, and So, and we got a snow day on Wednesday, which also meant, like, that youth group was canceled on Wednesday. So we got 2 snow days this week, and I cast on all the things, and so many of them are gorgeous beautifulness. So that has made me feel a lot better. So like when I was talking about how I felt like the weather and the winter and everything was kind of like getting me down and I wasn't feeling good, I feel like I'm in so much better of a headspace. So I get that people want to finish things, but if you really want to cast something on and you have the stuff, especially, I didn't go out and buy any of this stuff. Most of it was stash yarn that I've had for quite a while. Well, I mean, I guess the 2 things from York they wouldn't be a year until May. But I feel a lot better. Like being able to have the pretty snow and the snow days and just have that break from the routine and cast on all the pretty things, that's made me feel a lot better. And so I've been kind of like in a better headspace. And I'm thankful for that. And I would suggest that if you have that feeling too, I know a lot of the podcasts I've been watching recently, people have mentioned that they've kind of been in a funk, and I literally think it's the time of year. I think a lot of people are feeling it. It's been a weird winter. It's been kind of severe. We haven't really had hardly any snow of a decent amount since December 1st. Like when Vlogmas started, we had a snowstorm that day, but that's like the only one that we've really had other than like a few inches. But it's been cold and windy and just kind of miserable and blah. And so I think that has really helped me as well. Anyway, so as I was getting into a better headspace, I was able to get to work on a few other things that you have not seen since like beginning of January. My coffee is starting to get cool. Also, I'm shedding all over the place. My hair's been up the last few days, and so like my curls are really stretched out and like weirdly flat on the bottom. They're just like straight out like knives. I feel like I could be Medusa. I've kind of got like huge hair going on today, but I didn't want to take all the time that it would take to shower and dry and fix and blah blah blah, because supposedly we're supposed to be having a blizzard now, but it doesn't look like anything's happening yet. So the first thing that I'm going to show you that you haven't seen in a while is Parisian Dreams by Knitting Expat. That is in House of a la Mode Huntsman that I got at Stephen B when I went to VKL Minneapolis. So it's not a ton different than the last time that you saw it. If you've been around a while, you may recall that I did not swatch, and I recklessly cast this on Black Friday because Allison, who is Lofty Loops, Yarns and Podcast, and .com, all the things, Instagram, anyway, she was casting on her Pavement, which she bought yarn for at Stephen B's while we were at VKL Minneapolis, and so we kind of were like, ooh, let's do like a VKL Roomies sweater along knit thing. So I immediately, I came home that day and cast it on. So the last time that I had shown it, I was just a few decreases in, maybe like right here, and had said that I felt like I needed to block it because so many of the pictures, the sleeve seam was like clear down here, but mine were like straight up and down and my neck was like this big. So I was concerned about that. So I did go ahead and knit it to the end of the decreases and then block it and then try it on. And that did, it did put my sleeve down, and the end of my decreases were about probably mid-arm. It was a little bit above my watch. And so from there, I prefer my sleeves to be long. However, that has gotten me into a little bit of trouble lately, because when I knit them long and then those yarn grows, sometimes they've came out a little bit too long. So both my longline cardigan and campside cardi, there's a borderline too long going on there. So I wanted to make sure that I did not do it too long, but also I do not like where hers hit her. I don't know if you can really see that, but it's like where my watch is almost, or just maybe a little bit past it. It's not covering up this part of her thing. And I know that she is a tall person as well, but I can't have sleeves that end like that. It gives me nightmares of childhood when my jeans and my sleeves were never, ever, ever long enough. So when I tried it on, I measured to a decent place where I would be comfortable with the sleeve hitting, and that was about 6 inches. And that was not really far into my hand, but it was onto my hand. And so then I picked it back up, and also I had put this down because it was hurting my wrists to knit it, and I was knitting it on 12-inch circulars. And when I picked it back up after the next decrease, I'm like, you know what, I think I could probably get away with my 9-inch. And so I got those out and I was using those, and it was so much better. So part of it is probably also that as it gets bigger, you aren't moving the sweater shoulder as much, you're just moving the sleeve, and so that was probably part of it. But also, like, I think the 9 inches are better angle for me or something. I don't know. They seem to work better. But anyway, so that's what I was doing. I knit. You can absolutely tell what was blocked and what wasn't. There's a distinct line. And so I just kind of made this close to 4 inches, and then made it so that it was like a multiple of 10, so that I could easily count for the next one, the next sleeve, the exact amount. And then I did my cuff. So my cuff was more difficult with the 9-inch, and it came out looser. So if I move this is, I'm not stretching this, and you can really kind of see through that twisted ribbing. However, I feel like that's okay, because I do want it to go onto my hand, and that part of my hand is going to be a little bit bigger. I think it looks fine. It is looser, but I don't care. It's like the cuff. So I do have that sleeve done. One of the other things I think has been bothering my arm or my wrist with this is the fact that I am like helically knitting, and that pretty much requires me to turn it all the way around, whereas if I were doing it, I would flip it like back and forth like this. I don't know. That makes no sense. There's something about it that's making me feel like I have to twist the sleeve further around than I would normally would before flipping it back. And so I think that that's part of what is giving me the extra tension on my wrist. But anyway, so I do not normally want to, well, knit sleeves in general, but alternate skeins on a sleeve. But I did because my husband and Allison say they can't tell, but I can totally tell where those skeins change. Like a lot. I did not really see it like that when it was on my body, but also where that darker line kind of is kind of where my gut is, and darker colors are supposed to make you look smaller, so maybe it'll work out. The neckline did get bigger. Also, I did make the water slightly warm because I wanted to make sure it really relaxed, because I was really worried about this neckline and also where the sleeve was going to go to. And so I wanted it to relax, but truthfully, it was only like just a tiny bit warmer than room temperature. There was a lot of blue in the water. So these really pretty blue sparkles, this yarn is absolutely gorgeous. These pretty blue sparkles were bleeding some. It is some of the softest yarn I've ever used. Like, as you're knitting around and you can like feel the inside with your fingers, like, it's so soft. But I am getting excited to have this done and be able to wear it. I just have the other sleeve to do now, and that should be a little bit quicker possibly, because I do know how big to make it and I don't have to stop and block it in between. There's not a ton of extra ease in it, but I'm okay with that. I also feel like after it's completed and I wear it, that the lace will actually open up more. I did kind of lay it out and kind of push it to the dimensions, but I think that with wear, it's gonna open it up a little bit more, like, and be a little bit roomier. But I didn't swatch, and I'm perfectly happy with the amount of ease, especially because that was one of the things I had a problem with the pattern, is it was supposed to have a certain amount of ease, but I was like, neither the size above or down were like appropriate for my size to get that amount of ease, and so I went with the smaller, because I'm finding that a lot of the really big stuff don't look good on me, and I don't understand that. But I am kind of going away from like the really bigger stuff because it just seems to look slumpy on me. Like, it just, something about it is not working. So I did go down like width size, but I did go up in length size, if that makes any sense, because I wanted to make sure that it's long, and I will most likely wear this with a lot of leggings, and so I wanted to make sure that it was going to cover my rump. So I'm excited. That one's getting pretty close, and I'm glad. So another thing that you probably haven't seen since December, maybe even, is my Puntia by Joji Locatelli. And I'm just going to take a minute and drink my coffee again, which is almost cold. The last time that you saw this, I just had a little bit of the back done. I did find both of the tags when I was searching for the tags for that rainbow yarn and that shawl. This is Manos del Uruguay Fino, and it is 30% silk, 70% extra fine merino, and they are single. And it is Silver Teasette is the gray, which you're not going to see in it yet, and the Peacock Plume is the blue, which is the main color. So I grabbed this out a few days ago and decided I just needed to get to town on it. I've been really wanting to cast on another sweater, and I'm like, I have two. I should just finish something. So I have now connected the body. So the last time you saw it, it was the back, and it was just like a little bit up in here, and I needed to knit to 7 inches, and then I needed to do the fronts, and then I had planned to podcast yesterday, and I had some stuff that I knew was coming in the mail that day, and so I'm like, well, maybe I should just wait until the mail comes. So I did that, and it came actually early, much earlier than it normally does. And then I'm like, okay, well, now the kids are going to be coming home from school, so I'll wait until after they get home from school so that we don't have like the whole like coming in thing interrupting us. And then my mom called me, and I talked to her for like an hour. So then by that time, it was kind of starting to get dark. I'm like, there's no way that I can get through a whole podcast before I lose the light completely. And so yesterday didn't work, and I just decided I will wait until tomorrow and try to do it before the blizzard. So here we are. So I actually got quite a bit further on this yesterday, and I just kept knitting it. I am into the mindless knitting part because I am joined in the round. I've done about that much. Since joining it, and now it's just mindless knitting that I can use for anything. I have not been alternating skeins because Joji likes to torture you in the beginning of her top-down sweaters. I would say that while I really like the look of this sweater, I would not suggest knitting it unless you're pretty patient and don't mind ridiculous stuff. I felt that a lot of the stuff was unclear. Some of the instructions seemed needless. There are some typos in the pattern. Yeah. So I found it pretty frustrating, and I would say that this is like the most confusing Joji pattern I've made so far. And the long line cardigan, there was a lot of moving around and doing strange things. Also, like, this one has you do a bunch of wrap and turns. But in her techniques for short rows, she doesn't tell you at all how to do them. She says, you can find a tutorial online, which is okay, but at least if you had given a snippet of what to do, then I could have looked at that and been like, oh yeah, that's what I do, and then done it, rather than having to go and type in a ridiculously long URL thing. Also, her cable cast on instructions, which she actually did include, are extremely confusing. Yeah, I would not suggest this to a beginner. I consider myself an experienced knitter. I've made a few sweaters. This is probably the hardest one to follow. I was pretty frustrated with what she meant on a few things, which is, I mean, a lot of people have made this, and I've never heard anybody complain about it. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm going to love this sweater, but I have been frustrated with it quite a bit. And I think now I maybe won't be, because I think all of the crazy stuff that she puts into it is usually the upper back and the right here. But I feel like it could have been a lot simpler. It didn't need to be 15 different pieces to be able to get a sweater that fits. But my opinion, I'm just saying. As I also was saying, I have not been alternating skeins. This is all one skein, but like, because you have 15 different pieces, alternating skeins would have been a complete pain in the butt. So what I decided to do is knit the first skein, until I got to 20 ounces. So I have been weighing that. I feel like 20 ounces is a whole mini skein, and that would be enough to kind of fade. So I will start, now that I'm down to the 20, start alternating with the next skein so that there isn't a line. I don't know how that'll work out. The skeins look pretty good together, but we'll see. I do kind of like, I had not noticed because I haven't really looked at it, but I do kind of like how some of this blue and green is making kind of shapes. I don't know if it doesn't really look like that in person. Like, you don't see it as much in person. Like, it's not, it almost looks like a solid line on the video, but it's not here. It's interesting. Yeah, so I'll start alternating, and I am going to, I was watching Nadir Tani yesterday, who does the Quirky Monday podcast, and she is doing a Pisces season make-along, which is anything that is like Pisces or water related, or blue or green. And it started on the 19th, and I had just picked it up on the 20th, which is actually after. So when I was watching her yesterday, I was like, oh, I was knitting this. I'm like, my sweater could work. So I think I'm going to jump on that. Most of this work, all the front has been done since her make-along started. And it just had to be less than 50%. So I didn't even have 50% of the back, 50% of the upper back done before that date. So I'm going to do that. And I'm really looking forward to doing this. Also, when I bought this yarn, I had planned, I'm going to go ahead and show you the silver. I had planned for this to be, because you only use it for just the little bit of trim on the bottom in the cuffs. And so I had planned for this to also go into a shawl that I was also planning at the time. So the rest of some of that will be used for that. I'm really looking forward to having this. It's really soft. This yarn is very thick and thin. I don't know if maybe you can see it better on the back. It's very thick and thin, but it ends up seeming even. So, you know, there'll be a thick spot and then there'll be kind of a thready spot, but after it's knit, it kind of just looks regular and even. So I'm kind of interested. I know that the yarn lady, who was my original yarn lady, that I got it from, she's like, you know, it's single ply, so it's more likely to pill and stuff like that. I think the silk will help a little bit with that, but I'm sure it will pill. But I think it's going to be very beautiful, and that once it's blocked too, and the yarn kind of relaxes, I think it's going to be a very beautiful design, and hopefully we'll have some of that sheen from having been made of silk, have some silk in it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm getting stuff all over me. I'm trying to keep it a little bit organized, but that's not really working. Okay, so I bet you think I'm almost done. Trying to keep this as one video is getting harder and harder. So I have a couple of stash acquisitions. Last week we had popped in, well, we had a meeting in Lincoln, and then we were supposed to have a snowstorm, so we needed to leave right away after our meeting. So I just quickly grabbed from Lofty Loops the yarn that I want to make my Speckle and Tonic. This, oh, I forgot to mention that both the Puntia and the Parisian Dreams are part of my Finish 9. You can see those on Vlogmas towards the end. This was on my Make 9, the Speckle Tonic. However, the description right here says that you need 1 skein of each color, and it's completely misleading, but then when you read down below a lot better, you see that you actually need 2 of the darker, the lace color. So the colors that I had picked out for this from Lofty Loops, the darker color, the darker solid color at least, was made out of something that used dye that has been discontinued. And so she wasn't sure that she could really get that same thing. So we had discussed swapping it out for something, etc. But she's been showing all these pictures of her Lotus colorway, and I decided let's just change it and I'll use those yarns for something else. So I picked up a skein of her Lotus, and this is on her Pure Base, which is a new one, and it's her 100% Superwash Merino 3-ply. But it has these beautiful, beautiful speckles, and I decided that I wanted to knit it with Abyss, which is kind of a dark blue with kind of a purpley hint to it. She did not have 2 of those at the time, and to make sure that they are as matched as possible, she is supposedly dyeing those up for me this weekend, and hope she doesn't lose electricity because I want my yarn. And also so she doesn't get cold and stuff, but mostly I want my yarn. Just kidding. So I did pick up this thing of Lotus, and of course, being in there, she's had 2 new colorways lately that have also been like killing me, and I really, really want. So one is Fang Banger, and this is on her 80/20 sock, and this is one of her new colorways, inspired by True Blood, and it has all the colors on it, and I have not decided what I'm going to do with this. Probably a pair of socks, but I just think it's fantastic. I'm much more, like, it still has her signature mauve. Not that all of her colors are mauve, but she seems to knit with a lot of mauve. It still has that, but it's much more moodier, so it fits me a lot better. The other one that she has done recently is, she named it Splashdown, and it is all kinds of gorgeous, crazy blue beautifulness. I am loving it. This is on her glitz. Oh yeah, and the Abyss that she is knitting or dyeing up for me this week to go in my Speckle Tonic, it's gonna be glitter. Anyway, yeah. So her glitz base is 75 superwash merino, 20 nylon, and 5 stellina. So it is just gorgeous. Pretty. So I did pick those up, and then when we first got to the meeting, I skipped out on the boring bits and ran over to one of my other VKL roommates' house, and she had put on Instagram that she had some needles that she was going to sell, so she could... What was it she was trying to go to? I can't remember. One of the, like, yarn festivals she's kind of, like, trying to get money together to go to. And there are a bunch of, like, sock needles. So, the Flexi Flips in 2.25, 2, and 2.5 millimeters. I do have the 2.5 millimeters already, but that's okay because I really do like these. If I'm going to knit my kids' socks one at a time, I prefer them on the Flexi Flips, so I'm okay with that. And then also these ChiaoGoo short combo twists, where you can make it gives you the needle tips and the cords to make both 9 and 12 inch circulars in size US 0s and 1. So I ran and picked those up. The rest of my stash acquisitions I'll save for a few minutes from now because I have other stuff to show you. And coffee's starting to go through me, so I need to talk quicker. So in my beautiful rainbow basket, I have hidden something new. And I'm going to just start by saying I am not good at not being good at things. I don't like to do things that are out of my comfort zone and hard for me, and I like to pick stuff up really fast. That's probably why I love brioche so much, is because once I like figured it out, like, and it was a short amount of time that it took to figure it out, went nuts. Like, bam, it was there. So I had shown you that I bought a drop spindle and a couple braids of fiber. And so I tried those out. And guys, I'm not good. So not good. So I did this on the drop spindle for a while, and it actually looks worse than it truly is because I didn't wind it nicely. Like, it's like crossed over itself, but I mean, it's not like super bad. It's a decent small size, which is what I'm always going to be going for because I don't really knit with a lot of bigger yarns. But it does look worse, and I am a very, very uncoordinated person. And so I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like, it ain't working. So one of my friends, my other VKL, look at this. I get to talk about all 3 of my VKL roommates in the same podcast. So my last VKL roommate, only one I haven't talked about so far, is the lovely Anne. And she was like, if you figure it out, let me know, because I have one and a spinning wheel, and I don't know how to use either one of them. And what it boiled down to is she has a spinning wheel that she is not using. And I was just like, I am not coordinated enough to do this, and I desperately wanted to. So when she said that she had a wheel that she had not been using, I was like, okay, I'm going to be that mooch and ask. So I just asked her if I could borrow her wheel for a while and try to see if I could figure it out. Because I really want to buy a wheel, but that is just a financial investment that I am not capable of at this time. And so if it's not something I can do, then I could maybe be able to move on. Because this was not fulfilling me and was extremely frustrating. So she very, very generously said that I could borrow her wheel. And it is an Ashford Traditional, and so I went and was able to pick that up from her, and that was a cool addition that is visiting my house, but I really like having it. So I had to try. So some of this has kind of fallen off. This is what my yarn looks like. Can you see it? I am not having any good focusing. Do you see how bad this is? This is awful. This is so awful. I was just like, this ain't working. So I did a lot of searching online and trying to figure out what was going on, and decided that I needed to figure out putting the yarn into, because part of the reason that I have these is because even when I thought that I was trying to get the yarn to go into the wheel, it wouldn't go, and it was just like going around itself and like curling up. So I'm like, I need to figure out if I'm doing something wrong or if it is something I need to adjust on the wheel, because I have never touched a spinning wheel before. I had no idea. And the things that I was seeing online were talking about tension and things like that. And so I was just like, I don't know. So what I decided to do was to get out some cheap acrylic throwaway type yarn and use that to see, like, to practice, like, letting it go in, and also to use it to be able to make some adjustments. Isaac, to make adjustments to the wheel if they needed to be made. So here's my very consistent spin. This was just, I just got a center pull ball of cheap acrylic and started knitting on it, spinning on it, so that I could figure out what the deal was. If it was me or if it was something I assumed it was me, but I also was like, is there something about the wheel that isn't quite working, and that's making what I'm doing not work? So I spun up this much of it and was able to get it adjusted, so then, like, it was doing it. And it also helped me to get into the rhythm of, like, how to, like, let it go in or whatever. So this obviously is not actually spun yarn, but it helped me a lot because I did adjust. I did tighten up the tension and the, like, around the wheel, and then this tension band that has the springs on it, it needed to be tighter than I thought. And just those incremental changes made it to where this was feeding in, because at the beginning you obviously can't see it because it's buried under the other yarn, but at the beginning this yarn too was doing like the curlicue thing. So it wasn't entirely me spinning, but it was me didn't have the spinning wheel done upright. And I think what I will probably do before I spin again is actually put this back on there and feed it in again, just to kind of like get my hands ready to go and warmed up and remember kind of the movements that I was using. So once I got that adjusted, thank God she had a lot of bobbins, because I never would have been able to figure it out. I decided that drafting was a problem for me. I just couldn't do it at all for some reason. And I have a few more words to talk about that in a little bit. So I decided, well, I'm just going to pre-draft this fiber like out as much as I can, and I'm just going to try to spin it and get it to feed in and kind of try to get it to where I'm not over or under twisting it. So here's the bobbin that I did that with. There are not the curly, actually the stuff that's underneath this is actually a little bit better, but there are not the curly cues, and I was not drafting when I was doing this. So this is all pre-drafted and then spun. A lot of it is underspun until you like get into little places like this. See, there's better stuff underneath there, I feel like. But so I did this skein, then I'm like, okay, I figured out how to get it to go into the machine. I'm into the rhythm. I think now maybe I can try to draft. And taking those two elements apart helped me a lot. Not as much as I was hoping, but it did. So then I did some spinning, and I spun this bobbin, which is, I mean, way better than the other one. It's not as great. Like, I was kind of thinking, oh, I'm doing a really good job spinning it really thin. And then Allison showed me some of her first skein. I'm like, hers is way better, so. But we're not supposed to compare. I was drafting on this, and that is something that I've looked into. Truthfully, this kind of area right in here, I was doing a better job underneath it. Like, you can kind of see further back, the yarn actually looks better. So, I learned a lot by doing this one, and so I think that it was a valuable lesson that I got stuff out of. So my plans are, use this one for warm-up, throw this crap away. I'm going to chain ply this one, and just for practice on chain plying, because that's what I want to do with this. And I have no idea how much I'm really going to get out of this. I don't know what the bobbins weigh without yarn on them. But, that's 100 grams on there, and the whole, yeah, so the bobbins must weigh a lot. If it comes out far enough to use for something, then I might try, but otherwise it will just be a pretty decoration, hopefully, that I can look on later on when I have more practice and be like, oh, look how far I've come. But I'm not entirely sure that that's ever going to happen, because this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And like I said, I'm not good at not being good at things. I ended up with all of this that is not really super usable. I had so many problems. A lot of this is from the very, very beginning one, where I was overspinning it because it wouldn't feed in. And so I'm hoping that that's better later on. I did go ahead and decide how I was going to spin my next one. That color that I've already spun is called Spring Has Sprung. It's from Spindle, Shuttle, and Needle in Stromsburg, Nebraska, and also .com. This next one is English Rose, and it was kind of gradiated white, purple, and gray, or purple and white. And so I decided I want to spin the white fiber together. So I kind of tore them apart. I also believe that one of the problems that I was having with drafting is just the compactedness of it, and so I like spread it apart. So it's actually like kind of like sheets now instead of like the round, and that seemed to help me a lot to making it into much smaller pieces, and also like spreading it sideways, because before it was just sticking completely together. So I did split this apart. Hey Isaac, can you please stop? The green does have white at the top, so I'm not super sure like how to get the white before it goes into the green, because there's 3 like sheets of this, because I want it to gradiate, so I don't want to have like white and then green and then go back and have white and green. So I'm going to try to get some of this off the top to go through the green, and then there's a little bit of green at the top of the purple, and then the end is kind of, there's a little bit of black throughout, but it kind of ends on a darker note. So that is my next one. I'm planning on trying to do that kind of gradient-ish, and then chain ply it. Chain ply seems like the easiest thing right now, and hopefully will even out more than just like a 2-ply. I don't know that much about spinning. So that is waiting for me. I used all 4 of the all 4 of the braids that, I can't even talk. The bobbins, she had, my friend had 4 bobbins for the wheel that she let me use. And so all 4 of those obviously had fiber, and I did not on them, and I did not want to take any of it off before showing it to you on the podcast. So I didn't really move on with any spinning since I did that. However, once I figured that out, it went so fast that I'm like, I'm going to be out of fiber in absolutely no time. And so I went ahead and was like, okay, I need to purchase some things. Now, the stuff that I got from Spindle, Shuttle, and Needle is Colombian Rambouillet, and it's roving. So in trying to figure out what my issues were with being able to draft it, this has a longer staple, and I know that I've heard a lot of people say that merino is not good for starting out spinning because it has a short staple length. However, I think a lot of my issue with the drafting is that my fingers are really close together. I naturally want to do a short forward draft. Hopefully that didn't shake the camera. And so I feel like maybe that wouldn't be a problem for me with the merino. Also, the roving braids that were dyed were also really stuck together and compacted, and even fluffing them out, I feel like there's still spots where they're just stuck together. So I wanted to try out some different preparations in different fibers to kind of see if there are things that I find more enjoyable to spin with, things that would be easier for me to use, etc. So I got on Paradise Fiber and made my first fiber online purchase. So one of the things that really got me was this mixed merino wool bag in Beautiful Brights, and it is rainbow. Each one of these colors has 25 grams in it, and so I love rainbows. Also, it's small. Like, it's not big and thick like the roving that I bought originally. So I feel like this is already smaller and maybe easier. Hey, Isaac, I need you to stop talking. It may be easier for me to get to the smaller that I want to knit with. This is merino top. So all of the things, my understanding is that all of the staples are facing the same way, and so I feel like that would be easier to draft out than having them enmeshed. So I saw these online and they were next to each other, and the color together, I was like, I want a yarn that is the two. So once I feel comfortable knitting a little, or spinning a little bit better, that's really hard to remember to say spinning instead of knitting, then I want these to be my first 2-ply. Well, not necessarily my first 2-ply, but my first like planned 2-ply. So these are merino top. This is the heather colorway, and this is the granite colorway. And I got 4 ounces of each. And you can't really see them, but they are very beautiful purple and gray that I just think would look gorgeous together. There you can see the colors a little bit better. I just think those are beautiful together. So that was something to try. Then I found an enormous amount. Oh, I gotta get this shut back down. They did have an undyed merino top. So like for 1 pound of it, it was as cheap, or it was either cheaper or the same price as this dyed prettiness. It's just undyed. It's a whole bunch, so I can practice. And then if I, have something that is useful out of it, then I do. And if I don't, I don't. I feel like it would be harder to waste these pretty colors than it would be like this. If it's not good, if it's not usable, I won't feel as guilty. Because I ended up with that pile of that roving that isn't really usable and was kind of icky and all of that stuff. And I feel really guilty about wasting even that little bit. So I feel like I would have less problem with that on this and would give me a really good practice. And I think the top will be easier for me. I think also because the merino does have the shorter staple length, that it actually might be better for me, because I cannot figure out how to do backward draft yet. And my natural tendency is short forward draft, and I want a fine yarn. So obviously everything is going to take practice, but that is why I think that the merino might actually be good for me. Who knows? It may make me and the wheel completely blow up. Hopefully not, because it's not my wheel. And then I also decided to try, I wanted to try a different, I feel like this is a different makeup, like preparation. Isaac, I apologize for the kid sounds, but I really don't want to edit it, so I'm trying to like go on. I wanted to try a different fiber and another thing. So this is saying that it's carded Corridel, and it is just black and white mixed together. Hold on 1 second. Isaac, I need you to stop. Okay, that's fine, but you need to be quiet about it. I'm almost done. So it is just a black and white fibers carded together so that they're blended into this beautiful gray. And there's 5 different shades of gray. And they are, that one smells so sheepy. like, it's kind of good, and it's also kind of like, whoa, where's that smell coming from? I'm not used to that yet. I've heard a lot of people talking about Corriedale, and so I kind of wanted to, that was one that I noticed that was something different besides Merino, to try. All of the 5 days of gray are named after weather. So this particular color blend combination is Tornado, and I got 8 ounces of it. I thought it would be good to try a different fiber, as well as it's kind of different, like it's carded, but it's not super like Roby. I don't know. I'm still learning what everything means, the different like labels for things, and trying to know what that means and all that. So, yeah, I do believe that that is about it. I'm not going to really share any life stuff today. There really hasn't been much other than casting on all the things. And honestly, we're like at almost 2 hours, which is a longer podcast than I've had in quite a while. But as you can see, there's been some new stuff. And I have not usually have a lot of acquisitions, but I have a whole nother form of acquisitions on top of the spinning, which is new, and a lot of cast-ons. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and close it off here. It is, wow, it's 1, and I feel, yeah, there's something coming down, but the blizzard part hasn't started, so I'm hoping that I will have time to get this on the interwebs, so that if you are able to keep your power and have internet throughout this day and weekend, that you could be able to enjoy it. I would invite you to introduce yourself on the Ravelry group. And also, if you have any questions for the podcast, ask them down below or over in the group, either one. And I am so happy that you're here. I hope that you can find things that you enjoy. I mean, if you like rainbows, I feel like I have a lot of rainbow stuff right now. Oh yeah, I was going to go over a few podcasts that I've been watching. So I was just going to mention a few because I've been watching a few new ones, and I've kind of brought a few of them up as we've gone along. So Nadir Tani is Kalisha, and she's the Monday Quirky podcast. Quirky Monday? No, I'm getting confused. I said it earlier, and I feel like I said it right, but now that I'm like second guessing me, I can't remember. She is doing the Pisces Make-Along, and you can do any craft for that. And she is, like, sitting down. I feel like everybody kind of has their own podcast vibe. And she is, like, sitting down with a girlfriend and just, like, chatting over tea and catching up. Like, I've really enjoyed watching her. Also, she lives in Florida, and so it's really weird that she's, like, outside in tank tops, and I'm having a blizzard. So that's kind of an interesting difference, too, that I think adds to it. Then Hey Brown Berry is one that is very zen. Like, super zen, and it's not the kind of zen that puts you to sleep. It's like a calming and relaxing vibe that just makes you just feel at ease. And I really enjoyed her podcast. And then, of course, I talked about Drunk Knitter, and she's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from Hey Brown Berry, and she is so energetic and happy and fun, and that is not that the other one isn't happy and fun. That sounded bad, but she just has a very happy, excited vibe that I don't have. Like, I'm not that person, and so it's kind of fun to see that and enjoy that. Also, she is going to be having that mystery make-along, and so I am looking forward to that in coming up soon. And then the other new one that I started watching is I Squish Yarn, who is one of my VKL roommates. So between the 3 of us now have a podcast. So I Squish Yarn, she's new. She only has one up. She was talking a couple days ago about recording again, so I don't know if there will be another one coming up soon, or maybe she's done one in the last day, and it's getting loaded while I'm sitting here and rambling. Yeah. I also have started watching So Perfect Pearls, as I'm trying to find some people that also spin, because recently Snerb Yarn, SNERB, on Instagram shared how she went from wool, like raw wool, all the way through spinning the most gorgeous yarn I've ever seen in my life. And so it's on her Instagram in her feed, and she was doing the giveaway of the yarn that she was spinning, that she was preparing from beginning to end. And I wasn't really able to follow along with it and participate in the giveaway, but I've since like gone and watched each step, because I have some people that were offering to just give me wool. And so I'm going to need to know how to do all that prep stuff, but also I just found it fascinating. She was so informative. She has a few videos, but not like a podcast on her YouTube channel. But I would definitely, if you're into spinning at all, be following her on Instagram, because she was so, it was awesome to watch. Of course, it's in Instagram though, so like the videos are short and you have to like go to the next one, and that was a little bit difficult for me. I wish that it was like in YouTube so you could just watch the whole thing, because I would not realize she was like that the video was starting over instead of going to the next one, and then I was getting confused. Basically is what it boils down to. But it was amazing to see all of the things that went into it, and also to kind of learn some of the things that I will probably have to do if I do get that, get some fiber here coming up in the next few months. I don't even know when you shear, but yeah. So that's a few new podcasts, and I can hear kids starting to get a little bit crazier, so I'm not thrilled about that, and I need to get off of here and make sure that my phone is charged so that if the power goes out, we at least have that. Thank you for spending time with me today. I hope that you will like and subscribe if you have enjoyed your time with me. I really appreciate you spending time with me while you knit or spin or whatever you're doing. Here's a reminder, please don't watch me on big screen anything, because my skin's really bad right now. Between aging and zits and the winter time, it is just all kinds of problems. Not the point. Whatever. Yeah, I think that's about it. Stay warm, my friends. I hope that you are safe and that you do not lose power, and that you have a wonderful weekend of crafting, and I will see you back soon. Bye. Let me see if I can do this.